everyone, my name is Sandy Kloof Laird, and if you are interested in building a life centered around your passions and not just about making money, then you're going to want to stay tuned for this. So it's been a while since I've made a video. I got to the point where I was like, you know what, I really need to put my nose to the grindstone and just work on the foundations of my business. And so that's what I've really been doing for the past 3 years or so, is focusing less on creating the content I used to create and focusing more on building, like actually doing the work. And so now that that has happened, I have just a little more wisdom to share with people who are interested in building a life based off of their passions. So I thought today I would just share how I got here, how I became a writer, musician, nanny, piano teacher, like just a montage of all these things in order to make the income I want to make yearly and monthly. So my story really starts after I graduated miserably from high school. High school was always really tough for me because what they do is they make you take all of these foundational courses, of course, and then you get to choose like one elective. And so my one elective was choir. My entire adolescence, I was performing musically. My greatest memories are me on a stage somewhere. I was not a person who got nervous. I loved performing and I loved the stage. So obviously my parents knew about this. I got accepted into a really good private college here in Florida, and I got accepted into the music program. I was super stoked, super excited. I had actually worked my high school career with much of my parents pushing to get a scholarship exclusive to the state of Florida students. This scholarship was not even going to touch this private college. So my dad, very rightly so, looking back on it, was like, you don't want to do this because you're going to end up with mountains of debt. It was like $9,000 a semester, and you're going to have no way to pay that off because you're wanting to go to school for music. He didn't want it to be a ball and chain for me. And at the time I was really upset, but now looking back, I'm like, you know, he was absolutely right. So this led to me going to a community college for business. I cried on the way to college and back. I distinctly remember my very depressed 19, 18-year-old self just completely skipping classes one day. I like veered off from the college and just went straight to the beach and just sat on the beach and stared out at the water because I was so miserable. I hated it. So I dropped out of college, just completely dropped out. And I started working, or I continued working at my fast food job. Well, my husband was way more responsible than me at this point in our life. I have since then gotten way more responsible. And he decided that he was going to go through a 9-month course to become a medic. Because he went through this 9-month course, he got a pretty decent job for our age, making $13 an hour as a medic. This empowered us to get married. And at my fast food job, I noticed something. I was working 3 different people's jobs at this fast food job. I was able to multitask. So I was able to expedite the food, take the order, make all the drinks, boom, boom, bam. And I noticed that when I wasn't on shift, they had 3 other people doing the one job that I was doing when I came in. And I looked at my income and I was like, I'm making $7 an hour. But yet, I can do all of this stuff on one shift while it takes 3 other people to do the jobs that I do. And I just remember getting really upset about that. So by the time that I got pregnant and I was getting really big, and perhaps it was the hormones or something, but I just had enough. So at this point, I'm like, you know what? I am almost 9 months pregnant. I am sitting my butt in this chair and I'm just going to take orders. And something strange happened. They started putting more people on the shifts that I was working, and my pay didn't go down, yet I was doing less work. Eventually, I stopped that job because I was going to have a kid, and I had no intention of going back. Kudos to everyone who works food service. Worst 6 years of my life, except the night shift crew. Night shift crew, you guys know how to party. So I'm sitting there, I have just given birth to this beautiful baby boy, and my husband is the only income of the house, and we had just bought the house. Like I said, he was making $13 an hour, we're paying mortgage, we're paying car payments, we're paying for this new kid. Do you know how much it cost with insurance just to bring my son into the world? $6,000. $6,000 with insurance. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to bring some sort of income into this home. When I started doing the calculations of whether or not I needed to go back to work, I started noticing something. Hey, childcare for my son is going to be like $800 a month for an infant. So going back to work did not make any sense because I was bringing in like maybe $1,200 a month doing fast food. So I decided, okay, you know what? If I can only bring in $1,200 a month working fast food and daycare is $800 a month, I know for a fact that I can make $400 a month doing something from home. And that is where my entire life changed for the better. Looking back, I'm just so proud of myself for being pragmatic, but also knowing that I had the skills necessary at the time to bring in $400 a month. So what I did is started teaching piano lessons, $25 an hour for 4 kids every single week. Boom. That was my $400 a month. So I was like 2 months into doing these piano lessons. My son was strapped to my chest in one of those baby carriers while I was teaching piano lessons to these kids. That is the definition of a work from home mom right there. And I just remember thinking to myself, hey, I could do something else. So I started watching one of my friend's babies. So right then, within a 3-month span, I had not only given myself more than like a 30% raise, but I was making $600 a month. And that's when the idea just kept spiraling. I was like, you know what? I could watch more kids. And I ended up watching these kids for this family making $300 a month just for a small amount of time. And it just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And I had finally broke like a threshold of making $1,000 a month from home. So I've saved in childcare costs, and I'm also bringing in $1,000 a month to my family while being able to raise my son. Well, everything in my life was about to change. My husband comes home one day from a really great job. It's the kind of job where you get whatever you want to eat for lunch and they just buy it for you, okay? Like that kind of job. He never did bring me sushi rolls home. I was really always upset about that. But he comes home and he's like, I'm not really happy in my work. I want to do something more. And his best friend was over and he said, what if I wanted to be a doctor? So his best friend and I got my husband to sign up at the community college on our credit card right then and there. And he started courses for his upper level education. From there, I got pregnant again with my daughter. We were about to move to Jacksonville. And I'm thinking to myself, well, oh great, like all my connections are gone now. Like all the people who did piano lessons, all the people I watched their kids for, all those connections are going to be gone. I'm leaving my hometown and needing to go to Jacksonville. So I get to Jacksonville and I have to start the whole process over again. This time, I decided to do a montage of nannying, piano lessons, and direct marketing, all with one baby strapped to my chest, holding the hand of the other toddler. Finally, my income went over $1,000 again, and I started making $1,300 a month. Then I added professional musician to the mix, which I've always been a musician. I started playing around different places. Sometimes the gig would pay $50, sometimes it would pay $100. I finally tipped over $1,500 a month. Then I started exploring social media marketing. My very first gig for social media marketing was 3 hours a week, making $10 an hour. But I was really, really good at it. And it was from there and in that same thread where a friend of mine was like, hey, Sandy, you would be perfect for this contracted gig as a social media marketer. I had the interviews and I landed the gig. My whole life changed from that point. But it had taken 3 years of doing all of these different things, making income from home, to get this one opportunity that would set me on a trajectory to tripling my income in 3 years. I've since moved back to my hometown, living in my home with a very modest mortgage. Almost 7 years after I began this entire process, I get to work from home, pick my kids up from school every single day. If I want to take a 2-hour lunch break, I can. I'm still doing a montage of different things. I think I want to start playing music gigs again. And even though it was a lot of late nights and hard work and a learning curve and lots and lots and lots of networking and creating free content, I wouldn't trade it for the world, for the freedom that I have now. Now I get a lot of questions like, How did you do it? And the only way that I can really answer that is to tell people my story. Hey, I started here. I did what I could with what was in my hands at the time, and I just kept building on it. The one thing that I notice creative people have a difficult time with when it comes to the business side of things is confidence. They don't know what to charge for their services. They don't know what to charge for their art. They don't even know if it's possible to create a life that they want because they don't yet have those business skills to support their creativity. And that's really the problem, the pain point that I want to address in this next stage of my life. I'm 28 now. I've just been through a catastrophic Category 5 hurricane here in the Florida Panhandle last year. And if that don't start putting things into perspective for you, it certainly did for me. I want to help creative people figure out the business side of things so that they're charging for their work, confident about charging for their work, and showing up every day, putting the work in it takes to grow a thriving business. It doesn't matter if you want to do a montage of 8 things, as long as you're charging for them, you get that money coming in during the month and you know how to do your taxes. That's the kind of stuff that I want to talk about in this next stage. I've spent the past 10 years working my butt off in my own business, and I'm just now getting to the point where I'm like, hey, you know what? I did the thing, and I want to help you guys do the thing too. I can't promise that I'm going to save you time, but I really love the quote because I think it's so important. Many people overestimate what they can accomplish in 5 months and underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years. And that has been what my life has been about these 10 years, is building something slowly and consistently over time to where I'm now experiencing the benefits and the freedom that have come with taking the path less traveled. I even went back to school and got my degree while doing all of this because I had finally embraced the fact that my path is not going to be like other people's. I am a creative person and I can't just do one thing. In the course of my day, I may be a writer, I may be a graphic designer, I may be a video editor, I may be a marketer, I may be a musician, I may be a nanny, I may be a mentor, but that's exactly what I wanted out of life. And if that's how you are, I want you to follow me and these videos that I'm going to start putting out for you because you're going to find them really helpful and it's going to help you build your confidence so that you can start it as a side hustle and maybe, possibly, it can become your full-time gig. But I have to ask you something. If it's going to take you 10 years, would you still be willing to do it? Because that's really the big question. You can't give up on a dream just because of the time it will take to accomplish it. The time will pass anyway. That's one of my favorite quotes, and I have no idea who said it. The other one was Tony Robbins, though. So, begin thinking that you can do it. Start those creative wheels turning and asking yourself if you're finally ready to go after the life that you want. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you next time. I think I'll talk about either networking or confidence. I'm not really sure, but it'll be one of those 2 things. Have a good day.